Hey guys, in today's video I want to talk about the pros and cons of using boxing in a real life fight. Now, I really want to elaborate on the downside of boxing. Now, we'll get to that in the second half of the video. Now, I absolutely love boxing, because as far as overall effectiveness for self-defense goes, I'm definitely ranking it in the top 3 best martial arts, in my opinion. Because it's the best and safest way to quickly react against multiple attackers without getting hurt as much, as opposed to kicking and grappling, which is scientifically more likely to take the fight to the ground, which is not a good thing. Now, boxing is a fabulous martial art with good defensive maneuvers and footwork, which will flow very nicely when setting up explosive counterpunches. It's the only martial art that I can think of off the top of my head where the defensive abilities are just as good as its offensive abilities. Boxing also very well conditions you for real life violence with its fast-paced punches to the face and body, which is what you'll most likely face in a real fight. Boxing is great for both mid-range fighting at arm's length and also close quarters fighting. It's probably the most effective striking art for setting up counterattacks, because counterattacks taught in boxing don't involve grabbing hold of your opponent, which is especially important for helping weaker people defend themselves. It's honestly not a great idea to grab hold of an opponent who is much bigger and also stronger than you. You can just avoid them, look for an opening in their movement, and then counterpunch. Whereas in other martial arts, countering your opponent's attacks involve grabbing hold of them when you see an opening, which is not the quickest way to end a fight. I believe that the number one thing that makes boxing so much more appealing than other martial arts is that not only are the techniques way more pressure tested to work when shit hits the fan, but simply put, they can be learnt in a much shorter amount of time when compared with other martial arts. So in hearing all this, boxing sounds great, right? However, this is where we get into the negatives. While training in other martial arts like Muay Thai, Kyokushin Karate, kickboxing, judo, MMA, BJJ and wrestling can result in all kinds of bodily injuries. Boxing, however, has the number one worst reputation when it comes to breaking hands, brain damage and getting your face rearranged. I just want to mention one thing real quick. Joe Rogan was the first person to highlight the fact that MMA, regardless of whether or not gloves are worn, makes no difference to how dangerous it is. His reasoning behind this shows two things. The first being that if I can kick you bare foot, if I can knee you bare knee, if I can elbow you bare elbow, then why can't I punch you bare knuckle? And the second thing it shows is that the small open-handed gloves that are designed for both punching and grappling offer very little protection upon hitting someone at full force. The point I'm trying to make here is that the bones in your hands are very small and fragile, and they break very easily when you hit something. So when you end up in a real life fight having trained in boxing, in the heat of the moment you could realize that bare knuckle fighting, the odds of you breaking your hands are just as likely as you knocking someone out. Which brings me to the next issue, brain damage. In boxing, most attacks are to the head, more so than in any other combat sport, which leads to severe memory loss. So for self-defense, we've mentioned hands breaking, brain damage, now the most gruesome part, getting your face totally rearranged. What made prime Tony Ferguson so terrifying was how badly cut up his opponents' faces would look after fighting him. But in a bare knuckle boxing match or in a self-defense encounter, your face is going to look like that no matter who you're fighting, because when knuckles make contact with the face at full force, it's both a hard and a sharp impact. So your face would get absolutely cut up in that situation. Bare knuckle boxing produces far more brutal results than Kyokushin Karate or full contact Muay Thai trained in Thailand could ever dream of. And bare knuckle boxing was the established norm back in the 1800s during the Victorian era. And back then there were no limits as to how many rounds the fight would go for. It would just keep going until one of you gave up and could not continue. And there you have it, the pros and cons of boxing. The goal of this video was not to draw people away from boxing, it was just to get people to consider all the good things that boxing teaches you, and to also be aware of the risks associated with boxing. Thanks for watching.